Well, isn't it shaping up to be somewhat interesting? And the drive-bys don't even get it. The drive-bys are clueless. Greetings, my friends, and welcome. Great to have you here. Rush Limbaugh behind a golden EIB microphone at the distinguished and prestigious Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Political correctness does not exist here. We are fearless. Great to have you. Telephone number 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Most of you do. And the email address, lrushbaugh@eibnet.com. Okay. Sometime in either this hour or in the next hour, the House of so-called Representatives. That is kind of funny, isn't it? The House of so-called Representatives is supposed to hold a vote on the new Speaker of the House. Now, as recently as yesterday, most of the pundits, most of the drive-bys, and most of the inside-the-Beltway establishment types seem to think that Boehner had it in the bag. But this morning, and now this afternoon, they don't seem to be quite as sure about this. And there's a little nerve-wracking going on within the establishment, within the donor community, and in the drive-by media. And that is all amplified by the fact that they really don't understand what is going on because they are so out of touch, believe me. They really are. Everybody inside the bill, I don't care where they work or what they do, it is becoming increasingly difficult for people there to have anything in common with people like us who are not there. And it requires effort on their part to understand what's going on outside their world. And some make that effort to understand it and some don't. Exhibit A. I have here in my formerly nicotine-stained fingers a story from thehill.com. Boehner no votes pile up, and they don't understand it. And even in this story, it is incredible. They can't believe at thehill.com that anybody would challenge Boehner. And do you know why? Do you know why they can't believe that? Because if you read, you don't have to go very far. Halfway into this story, you find out at thehill.com, it is John Boehner who gets credit for all of the new House Republican seats. I kid you not, it is the most amazing thing. And these people think that they are a cut above. They're smarter than everybody else. This is their business, not ours. They know it, we don't. And they're sitting in there, and they're writing, and the Hill.com is typical. It's not an outlier. They really think, why would these Tea Party types, why would these Republicans be upset with Boehner? Why, he just led to unprecedented victory for Republicans in the House. They don't know that Boehner had nothing to do with it. They don't know that the Republicans didn't even mount a campaign. They don't know that it's the Tea Party that engineered this massive Republican majority in the Senate as well as the House. They really don't know this. You might think they do and are trying to ignore it or taint it or whatever, but don't doubt me. There are people at the highest levels of the establishment who believe the myths that they create. And they really, some of them, when they write stories like this, that they don't understand why they're so much upset with Boehner. Look what he did. My God, he's led the Republicans to the biggest House majority since Truman. They really believe it, folks. Now, some of them don't. Some of them know what's going on and are staging this for the basic brain-dead status of most of their readers, which are also inside the Beltway. I mean, it's breathtaking. You know, we've always thought, we've grown up thinking that the people that lead us are better than we are. And I don't mean it in a DNA sense. You know what I mean? We look up to them. We're inspired, but it's not the case anymore. It's becoming increasingly clear we know more than they do. Maybe not about the intricacies of their business, but we know more about the real world. We know more about living in it because they don't and we do. And it's almost breathtaking to behold this. Now, a third Republican has thrown his hat in the ring. And I guess the major importance of this is that it could fracture the votes of the Florida delegation. It's Daniel Webster, who is now the third Republican seeking Boehner's seat, along with Ted Yoho, named after the famous YOLO. Oh, it's Yoho. I thought it was YOLO. I thought it was named after the famous YOLO Causeway in Sacramento. Yoho? What's his first name, Ted? I knew all this. I'm just checking to see what's nerd. So Ted Yoho and Louis Gohmert, now Daniel Webster. I really did. Anyway, these people, can you believe it? Really, they can't understand. And now they're getting nervous. They're getting nervous. The pundits really did think that Boehner had this thing locked up and in the bag, and that right now they're beginning to doubt their own conventional wisdom. Now, they only need 14 more votes. According to reports, there are at least 15 House Republicans who've committed to vote against Boehner, and it'll only take a total of 29 to force a second ballot. So we're looking first here at essentially a veto vote of Boehner, and then maybe following that, the votes that would constitute the election, if there is to be a new speaker, who that would be. And the second ballot, not the one that's happening right now or within the next 2 hours, but the second ballot would cause the House Republicans to turn to somebody besides Boehner if the first vote results in a Boehner veto. Now, if there is a second round of voting, it'd be pretty much unprecedented. The last time that there needed to be a second round of voting for the House Speaker was back in 1923. Which was way before we started doing this program here on the EIB network. Not much before, but clearly before 1923. This is how rare a second vote is. So 29 votes. If they get 29 votes that essentially vetoes Boehner, then we're on to the second vote. We haven't had one of these since 1923. And when you think about it, the Republican leadership's attitude toward its own base is pretty much unprecedented. You know, the Democrat Party never, at least publicly, rejects its base or impugns its base or makes fun of its base or wishes its base didn't exist. The Democrat Party never, ever publicly does anything to diminish the image of their base, the reality of the existence of their base. They never do anything to humiliate them, and the Republican Party thrives on it. The Republican Party is doing everything it can to dismantle its own base, as identified by the Tea Party. It's doing everything it can to impugn them, to join the Democrats in mocking and making fun, and to render their base, their own base, impotent, which is why I spent so much time yesterday explaining the modern composition of the current establishment inside the Beltway. Anyway, it's fascinating to watch all this take place, and you all are flooding the zone in Washington. Phone calls and emails, texts, and Twitter messages, hashtags. They're being inundated in the capital city by all of, or many of you who are simply fed up at the fact that they don't get it and are not listening and are openly. I mean, this really, I can't emphasize how really unprecedented this situation is for the Republican Party leadership, its attitude toward its own base. Can anybody name a time when the party's own leaders turned on its base? the way the GOP leadership has turned on the Republican base. Can you think of a time when the Democrats have turned on their base like this? And that base deserves to be turned on. If there's ever a base that deserves to be ignored and apologized for, it's the Democrat base. They have turned those people literally insane, and yet they still embrace them. Well, but that's not the same thing. Democrats turning on the Republican establishment during Vietnam, that's nothing compared. This is really unprecedented, not in my lifetime. You might, during the Reagan nomination battles of 1976 and 1980, the Republican leadership was very much aligned against the base of the party at that time, which was becoming Reagan-esque, and certainly did succeed in becoming the base of the party by 1980. But that was in the confines of an election. It was in the confines of a primary race where you would expect these. Here we've just given the House Republicans the biggest majority in both houses they've ever seen, and they're out actively attempting to impugn, destroy, mock, make fun of the people that gave it to them, their own voters. It's a stunning thing to behold.